Well, this is the first science episode I'm doing where we are going to talk about science, and thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
Firstly, I am completely immersed in science or interested in science, but I can't do the calculations or go deep.
That's fine.
So this is the only access to me that I can enjoy.
Fascination is all that counts.
So can you just tell a bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Rutwik, and I've done my master's in physics with a specialization in photonics, which deals with the light and general electromagnetic radiation. And currently, I'm just delving deeper and deeper into that.
So why are you into science? Like, what was the first thing that you realized, okay, no, I have to go in science, I really like it?
Well, like many people, I got my start from astronomy because I fell in love with the images, and then I started thinking about how those images are captured, and then I got to the physics of it, and then it was a little bit hard and challenging, but I kept going with it, and I'm still in love with science.
And why physics? Like because physics, for example, that meme, if everyone can recall, so there are steps, and the person is standing on the first step, or not even on the first step, and he says, okay, I'm interested in physics, and he directly jumps into black holes and quantum mechanics and stuff, and skips all of the things. But when you start learning physics, it's basically math, it's gravity, it's Newton's laws, and then you don't even reach Einstein after, like
you do that during your undergraduate years.
Yeah, so then what encouraged you to go into physics, first of all?
What encouraged me? Well, as I said initially, I fell in love with the images. And what physics and science is the process behind those images. What a layman sees is the result. But people who do science are at work behind the screens. So that's the process is also quite fascinating if one looks into it and sticks with it.
Okay. So amazing, first of all, that you went through that.
Yes, it was traumatic slightly.
and I kind of also regret, because I really like math now, but I hated it when I was a student because I couldn't understand it. And then when I think it was Bill Nye who said in one video, like, okay, what is math? It's just a language like any other symbolic language. And then I was like, oh, if I would have approached it like how I know Marathi, how I know English, then I could have also went past the fractions and other stuff. So I regret that I don't know maths. And is
so
there
do
any
I.
hope for me though?
Absolutely, there is hope for you. There are several math for dummies books out there.
Yeah.
You just keep looking. And it's not that hard, as you said, and that Bill Nye said math is like a language. It absolutely is. If maths and its concepts are given the necessary context, it becomes infinitely more interesting than when you studied it in school.
Yeah.
That's the gist of it.
Okay. So you have a master's in physics, so that's why you are here. Yes. Do you know why you are here?
I was invited.
Yeah. And invited to talk about the physics behind gymnastics.
Yes.
So today's topic is physics behind gymnastics because it's fascinating. I like that before we started the recording, you said that it's not that they are using physics or they are using science. The science and physics already existed, and it's just now we are finding out, okay, if we
this
do this,
here.
this is the physics behind it. So it's really exciting. So I'll just tell you why I chose gymnastics. So I work for a facility where they train young gymnasts, and I do few videos for them because they want to promote their facility. And when I saw these young kids, even at the age of 8 or 9, actually doing the flips in the air, and there are these uneven bars as well where they rotate and then they lose the grip in such a way that they gain an angle and then jump on the higher bar. So it's like, okay, how do they even know this? And it looks physics-defying, but obviously it isn't, because it's happening and everything is governed by the laws of physics. So I think really interested into what happens. And when you try to find out, you get to know that there are a lot of things. So I have narrowed it down to the basics of it, where we will be looking at a salto, which is basically running and tucking in your knees and elbows, rotating in the air and then landing. And then what is the physics that goes behind it? Okay, so let's start with our first clip.
Right. So the run-up part of is her charging herself up for the jump. That's where kinetic energy is at play. As she's running, she's getting pumped up for the jump, and as she jumps, it's using that same kinetic energy. While the run-up itself is called translational motion or linear motion, and basically that's what's happening in the first phase of it before the jump.
Yeah, so can you just give me a very layman definition of what is kinetic energy first of all, and then I'll go to the next terms.
Right. So kinetic energy is physical energy involved in any physical process during that process is happening. So exactly the opposite of potential energy. Potential energy is defined as, not defined as in a layman terms, we can say it's dependent when the object is at rest or the process isn't happening. It's dependent on gravity. Let's say when a man is standing on the ledge about to jump, hopefully he doesn't, but he's about to jump, and because of the height he's at and because of gravity he has potential energy, and when he has jumped, I again hope he doesn't, that's when he has kinetic energy.
Okay, so kinetic energy is basically calculating whatever energy is going when that motion is
occurring,
happening. Okay. Yes. So what that or the energy that is being used, would that be right?
Yes.
Energy that is being used. All right. So now you talked about linear motion, translational linear motion, and what was the other thing? Translational rotation.
That's translation motion is linear motion.
Okay. Yeah. So what is that? Can you?
Translation motion is motion of a body which is moving in a straight line, more or less straight line. That's it. The forces are directed in a straight line. Acceleration is a straight line. Everything is directed in a straight line.
And linear means straight.
Yes.
So you are not deviating anywhere. It's a straight line. All right. So should we move on to the next thing, which is more exciting for me?
Yes.
When she actually takes a jump, or when the gymnast actually jumps and then they rotate in the air, which is called a salto.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Okay, so this is something that I have recorded. So I felt that this can be just a live version. So instead of just looking at the perfect thing, so his age is probably 15, 16, and he's still doing all these sort of things. Quite impressive. So let's just see the whole thing, and then when he jumps, I'll pause it. So, okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. And disclaimer, actually the floor that they use also have springs that allow them to actually jump much higher than what they
than is possible on regular ground.
Regular ground, yeah. Alright, so can you just explain, okay, what happens when they take a jump in this? What is that? First of all, my question is, and this is what I read, that you can't actually rotate mid-air if you don't have anything to push or grab. So you are actually starting the rotational motion when you are jumping, and then you so can you just take through that process of that jump?
Right, yes. So the first phase of it, as we discussed, is charging up, getting into the kinetic energy required to do the jump. And then as the athlete is pushing himself or herself off the ground, that's when he has already started his rotational motion. That's why he can do it without any pushing off of anything else in mid-air, because obviously he's not. That's the phase where three things are at play: moment of inertia, angular velocity, and angular momentum.
Okay, three things that I am fascinated by. So can you go with angular velocity first, then angular momentum, and then moment of inertia?
So simply put, angular velocity is velocity of an object which is rotating around an axis of rotation, like this That's the
Okay.
angular velocity.
So there will be an axis for the gymnast.
Yes.
It will be from head to toe.
Head to toe depends on the kind of
Okay,
jump
alright.
he is doing.
And just an object, which could be the gymnast, just rotating around that axis is known as angular
Axis velocity. Yes. The
And
rate of him rotating around the object.
so how fast he is rotating?
Yes, that's it.
And in which direction as well? Does that is also I think told?
Yes,
Or-
it factors in the mathematical treatment of the process.
Okay.
But here I think we can stick to the more intuitive.
Okay, just rotation around an axis.
Yes.
Alright. Angular momentum.
Angular momentum is it just simply put again measures the motion of rotation. That's
Okay.
it. It's measuring rotational motion, which factors in moment of inertia, which should be your next question.
Yeah.
Right?
What is moment of inertia?
Moment of inertia describes how the mass of an object is distributed along its body, around in and around its body. That's it. So let's delve into it here. When the athlete jumps, you will notice that he or she has to tuck in their legs and
Knees and elbows.
That they do that because it decreases their moment of inertia, and
Okay.
that helps them rotate much faster and go further in the
Yeah.
translation motion.
So let me understand this. So when they are in the air, so they've already started to rotate.
Yes.
Now, if they don't tuck in their knees and elbows, they will probably follow the Newton's first law. Like they will just whatever the angle they have taken, they'll just do that. But because gravity and stuff, they might not complete the entire.
It
circle.
won't be. They won't go as far, and it won't be as
Yeah.
graceful.
Yeah. So in order to do that, so what they do is they reduce their moment of
Inertia, which is how far from the axis their mass of their body is
Yeah.
spread out.
Yeah.
So if they tuck that in, if they reduce the moment of inertia, they spin faster. The angular velocity increases. One.
Yeah.
They go farther, which is they get farther in their translational motion of the whole act, of the whole routine.
So my question is, we are talking about angular momentum and moment of inertia. So why does it happen when moment of inertia is reduced? The velocity increases. So can you talk about that, about the conservation of momentum?
Yes, absolutely.
Angular momentum, and even probably after that we'll talk about torque and air resistance as well. But right now, just this.
So conservation of angular momentum in layman's terms, simply put, is just if some body is rotating and no external unbalanced force is acting on it as per first law of Newton, then it will keep rotating. In other words, the momentum will be conserved.
Okay, all right. So now, if we take the example of the gymnast, so you can see that first when they jump, their hands are in the air. So if they, so that means the mass is further away from.
Yes, the moment of inertia is large. The mass is spread out
plus
along the axis.
yeah, and plus I think there are details that we won't go into, where how much what amount of mass acts corresponding to the distance it has. So we won't go into that because again it becomes a bit complicated. But just to simplify, if your hands are away from your body, you probably won't be getting that kind of rotation. But if you tuck in, you'll
be able to rotate faster and go further.
Yeah, so your moment of inertia will reduce and angular velocity momentum will increase. That will enable you to spin faster.
Yes.
Right? Alright. So now what is torque? So I again read that you need torque to get a rotational
motion
going. Right. So what is torque? And when you talked about external unbalanced force, right now we do have air resistance and gravity which will act as a force, right? So in that as well, how is it possible that they still rotate a bit faster when they tuck in?
You mentioned air resistance and gravity. So in true physics fashion, air resistance is negligible.
Okay.
It is completely ignored. It doesn't make that much of a difference unless you go into rockets and stuff. But gravity is at play here. That's what brings the athlete down eventually.
Yeah.
So you asked what torque is. So first we have to know what force is. force is the force required to move an object, a mass. That's that the quantity is called force. It's moving against we have to apply force against the mass to move it, to accelerate it. So the rotational equivalent of force, translational force, is torque. Meaning the motion is in a the force is applied in a circular way. It helps the body going in a rotational motion around an axis.
Alright.
That's what torque is.
That is what torque is.
Yes.
Alright, so I think we have got a gist of it. I have got a gist of it. And now what we can do is we'll just go to through the entire video, and you can just maybe describe one by one what we have just discussed to sum up. Alright.
Here we see him running up, going into translational motion, getting his kinetic energy up. What the regular flips he's doing are a prelude to his salto. That's where he's gathering more rotational motion as well as kinetic energy while going through translational motion simultaneously. There he goes through with his salto, and that's where torque comes in, that's where moment of inertia comes in, that's where angular momentum and angular velocity comes in. It's all happening simultaneously as he's rotating, as he after he has pushed off the ground, and when he lands in immaculate form. So that's the gist of it.
And these are more complex, and probably something went wrong in terms of when he actually did not land the way he wanted to. So then it's obviously the momentum and other things coming into play, which he couldn't probably get that. And
as I'm sure you know, it requires a lot. It must require a lot of training and practice.
Of course.
So that's the training is at fault here. The forces and effects as we left them.
All right. So I think I think like quite fascinating. Did you like enjoy going back into the a bit of a basics of physics?
Yes, I did immensely. And it's always fascinating when you start to dig in and notice the physics and different concepts that I learned in everyday regular life, because I'm used to going through them or studying them on paper or in the software. So this is a breath of fresh air for me.
So one last question before we end this. So for a person like me who is interested in physics, do you have anything that I can read just to probably get to know more and just be more fascinated by physics? Any book, any author, anything that
Sure. There are many very well written, brilliantly written popular science books. The best among them are a series of lectures by a physicist called Richard Feynman. Feynman's lectures in physics for undergrads. So if you're not well versed in physics, if you want to go into it, you might want to start with Feynman's lectures. They're very simple to get. They're very intuitive, and that's Feynman's specialty. Those lectures are very famous among undergrads and grads alike.
All right. Thank you. So really enjoyed it, and this was. So basically, I'll just explain to the audience as well what I do here. So this was a part of a video that I will be publishing called the science or physics behind gymnastics and also the technique behind gymnastics. So Rutwik here has very I think smartly explained us the physics behind it, but I didn't want to just let all this conversation go in vain, and this is the episode that I really like, and hopefully turn this kind of a session into an Indian Star Talk, Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of thing. So thank you so much for coming. If there's anything you want to say before we end this?
Well, thank you for having me, for one. Thank you for asking so many insightful questions, and best of luck to you and your audience in your physics journey, in your science journey, and thank you.
All right.
I hope my explanations helped. I hope they weren't too complicated or I fear wrong.
All right. Thank you for watching.